Welcome to this chapter, and in this section the goal is to learn from real world use cases between Benza and I. So in this section we're not going to be typing up new prompts. We're actually going to be doing a little bit of a case study on past scenarios where we really used ChatGPT to speed up a workflow, to solve a problem, or to do something specific for a project. So with that said, let's hop into our first use case example where we reorganize a spreadsheet. So here we have a Google Sheet that I was actually using to create a purchasing list for one of my students wanting to build his own at-home production studio. And I kind of just went through this list and put out items kind of randomly as I was brainstorming initially. I'm like, okay, the student needs a camera, storage system, lenses, filters for the lenses, a microphone, cords, accessories, light stands, tripods, sandbags, power strips, everything. And I went through and I pulled Amazon links and then I put the price. Now, what I realized afterwards that it would be a lot more beneficial if these were organized by the specific type of gear that they were. So what I actually did is I went over to ChatGPT and I copied this whole list just like this. I copied it and I pasted it to ChatGPT. And then I said to please reorganize these items by price. And what it did is it actually kept the proper format and it put it in descending order of the lowest price item at the top and the highest price item at the bottom with the total. Now, if I wanted it to flip the order, I could then reiterate and ask it to put it in descending order versus the current order. But what I actually did is like, okay, great. Now group these by camera gear, lights, and sound equipment. And I was honestly curious if it was gonna be able to know what camera gear was if it didn't mention the words camera. So the Blackmagic camera, because it says camera, okay, for the average person, that's pretty obvious. But it also picked up the lens, the tripod, and it did put iPad into this category, so I would of course fix that. But I was honestly impressed. And if we move down to lighting, it put the lights. A softbox is an attachment that you put on your light. It's a lighting accessory that changes the quality of the light. So it knew the word softbox and basically knew the context that, okay, softbox should go in a lighting category. Rim and fill light, it knew that industry term. RGB lights, wall mount lighting, sandbags. And so sandbags you use at the bottom of a light so that you put it on the tripod itself so that it doesn't fall over. So I was really surprised at the context that it picked up. And now here's the other thing too. It organized it into an equipment section. Now the mic, that says mic, so I think that's pretty obvious that that should go in the sound section. But this item is a cloud lifter, which is basically something that you plug in via an XLR cable to your microphone that boosts the signal of your mic. For whatever reason, from its database, it knew that that should go in the sound section. So that was really impressive to me as well. And for the items that it didn't know how to categorize, it created an other equipment category that I didn't initially ask it to create, but it did it on its own because it didn't have an area to put these. And I thought that was pretty cool. So I wanted to also test what its limitations were. So just out of my own curiosity, honestly. So I asked it, which of these items would you say are the least essential to purchase for my home studio? Because I really wanted to see what it would say. So it said, the decision of what equipment is essential for a home studio depends on your specific needs and goals. However, if you're looking for items that may be considered less essential or could be postponed for a later purchase, you might want to consider the following. It said the teleprompter, and it also said the pad for our mic stand, which is honestly a very secondary, non-important item. And then it said basically the extension cords that we use to create 3 outlets out of 1 outlet. It's a bit of a technical thing for film. It said that that was secondary as well. So you don't need a teleprompter to shoot a video, but it is a nice to have. You don't need this pad for the microphone, but it's a nice to have. You don't need these cube taps for creating more outlets on set. So again, I was pretty damn impressed with its intelligence of not taking away the camera, not taking away the lenses, not taking away the tripods. It knew that those things were essential to making an at-home studio. So that was pretty impressive. I then went on, I said, okay, great. Now optimize this list for a Google spreadsheet. And it put it back essentially in the same format here that I started with. So now I have everything organized by category, and I could go in, highlight all this, copy it, and then paste it into Google Sheets, and then boom, we have what was here unorganized now in a nice list. But I also wanted to go further down this rabbit hole and see what else I could do in ChatGPT. So I was curious if it would be able to, let's say I made this list and I wanted to get 2 of one item instead of 1. And I said, okay, please 2x this specific item and put it in the table. And it went ahead and took this item and duplicated it and then updated the final price. So I thought that was pretty cool. Next, I said, now please create a subtotal row, a final total row, and add the cost of tax for purchasing in the state of California. And that tax amount is 7.25%. And here's what it actually did a great job of doing. It took all of our items, it made a subtotal row, it added 7.25%, which is this line item, and then it adjusted the final total. And I was like, okay, great. Now I have a more accurate list than ever before of what the actual final cost is gonna be for this student that I was creating this list for to purchase this equipment. And then I said, okay, great. How can I bring the total cost down without losing any important items I need to film with? Again, testing the limitations of ChatGPT. And it said there are several ways to bring the cost down without losing any of the important items. Here are some suggestions. So it said, look for used or refurbished. That's a good option. That may work for some scenarios, may not work for others. Prioritize essential equipment. I totally agree with that. Look for budget-friendly alternatives so you don't have to buy name brand stuff. And rent equipment and negotiate prices. So for this question, it didn't specifically address this, but it just gave me some overall tips and advice. So I hope this case study opens up your eyes to really some of the abilities and limitations of using ChatGPT for something like a Google spreadsheet or Excel document.